Hi, welcome Mixed Understood family. Thank you so much for coming back and checking my channel today. Today we're going to talk about what do you do if you have $100 and how do you invest. Let's dive in. When it comes to investing, one of the most important things to ask yourself is, what is my risk level? What is it that I am willing to risk in order to achieve something? And what are my goals? So that is the most important questions to ask before you put anything into the stock market, before you do any type of investing. So if you only have $100 that you're willing to invest with and you want to know, where do I start? Where do I begin? The thing that you need to ask yourself is, what do you want to accomplish with this $100? Is it that you are wanting to take it and put it into the stock market and try to flip it and make it, 100 become $1,000? Are you thinking, I'm only planning on putting this $100 to invest now. I do not plan on coming back and touching it at all for a long time, between 10, 20, maybe even 30 years. All I want is just to see my $100 grow over time. So understanding what is your risk level, and risk means you're putting $100 towards an investment. Are you willing to lose $100, or do you want to try to maintain and keep as much of it as possible? That explains your risk level, and this is called risk tolerance. Are you a high risk tolerance level, or are you at a low risk tolerance level? Now, some people who are near retirement, that is a good example of explaining someone who has a low risk tolerance. This means that they are already near retirement. They do not want to lose the money that they are putting into investing. They want to hold on to as much of it as they possibly can because they don't have another 20, 30 years, 40 years of investing like people who are in their 20s and 30s. Thinking about the amount of time frame that you have, your horizon of how long you can invest is also an important thing to consider. If you are young, then you perhaps have a high risk tolerance because you have a long investment horizon. You have a long time to invest. So whenever you're thinking about these things, think about, what is my risk level? How much time do I have to invest? What is my investment horizon? And by answering these questions and finally asking, what am I trying to achieve with this? What do I, in the end, want to see come out of the $100 that I put towards investing? Once we get these questions answered, then we can move next into, what should I put my $100 into? Now, as we just spoke in the first segment about determining your goals, your risk level, and your investment horizon, that's going to impact what investment vehicle are you going to put your $100 into. For those of you who have a short investment horizon, and that means that you don't have a lot of time, maybe you have 5 years, maybe you have 10 years, and you also maybe have a low risk tolerance, well then putting your $100 into something like a mutual fund might be good for you. Now, what exactly is a mutual fund, and how do you go about getting into one? Are there any fees? What's related to that? Those are all really great questions. So all of the major brokers such as Fidelity, Ameritrade, Charles Schwab, all of those large ones that you've heard those names for many years, those will all have a lot of mutual funds for you to choose from. Now, you do have to do your due diligence and your research because some of them will come with management fees. Now, some mutual funds are actively managed, meaning that there is a mutual fund manager who is taking care of making sure that the investments that he's put into this fund, they're good decisions. He's making sure that all of these companies are doing well, they have strong, healthy financials, and they are companies that he or she, whomever the manager of the fund is, that they are doing well, that they are going to increase, that they have a low risk of going into bankruptcy or experiencing heavy losses. So when you have an actively managed mutual fund, you are going to incur some fees because someone is paying attention and watching it very closely for you. There are mutual funds that are not actively managed, and those may be looked at on a quarterly basis. They may rebalance. Rebalance means that they're just going to check to see, is everything healthy here? Are things looking good? Did we take a nosedive with one company that was included in this mutual fund? And they will look to see, are we in good shape? But it may only be done 4 times in a year, and that's just something that you have to think about the pros and cons when you are working with funds that are actively managed and that are passively managed, in that there's not really someone who's paying attention to it on a month-to-month basis. Now, the pro of that is that you don't have to worry about the fees. You're not having to pay a mutual fund manager to keep an eye on it. So again, it just goes back to pros and cons, and you have to determine for yourself which do you think is best for you based upon those answers that you had to the questions that I asked in the first segment. Now, there are also things called exchange traded funds, ETFs. Now, ETFs, they are similar to mutual funds, and what they do is they will take it's a whole group of different companies all put together, and they are held so that if one company does poorly, then you may have 40 other companies within that one fund that is going to protect you from loss. It's going to help mitigate that loss because it's a buffer. So instead of buying into one specific company, let's say Apple for example, instead of buying into Apple, perhaps you decide, I'm going to enter into a exchange traded fund that is full of technology stocks. So technology could be all types of things related to Apple and other tech companies that it groups together, and it could be between 15, it could be 20. Some exchange traded funds may even have 40 different companies in them. So you get access to all 40 companies through this one fund. And often you can find that exchange traded funds do not have fees, that you do not have to worry about paying a fee to purchase into that fund. And so what's nice is that it gives you a wide variety of diversification. Diversification, let's quickly review exactly what does diversification means. So diversification is simply you're spreading your funds over many different companies. It could also be many different investment vehicles. Investment vehicles can come in the form of a mutual fund. It could come in the form of a single stock, which is in one company. It could come in the form of what we were just speaking about, which are the exchange traded funds, the ETFs. It could also be purchasing into options. It could be, and we can get into options later. We will talk about those. I know that they're very popular right now. But so there's a wide variety of different types of investment vehicles. And by using diversification, it helps, again, it's that buffer. It's that buffer so that you do not have to worry if something tanks. For example, a company goes badly, made some poor decisions, and they end up going into bankruptcy. Well, then you've got 20 other companies who are in that fund who are doing well, who are healthy, who have strong financials. So diversification is extremely important whenever you are considering investing. Putting everything into one basket or one company is not a good idea. Hence the phrase that we get, don't put all your eggs in one basket. That phrase has a meaning for a reason. So you do want to spread things out as well and as best as you can. Now you may think, I only have $100, I really can't do much with the $100. You would be surprised. There's a lot of companies out there who their stock is $10 a share. There's a lot of funds out there who you can get into for $20. Lots of times, many accounts you can start as low as $1 to open a brokerage account. There's many different types of brokers out there. Again, I would suggest do your due diligence in deciding who you would like to work with. There's a number of them. There's even new ones that are coming out, which you probably most recently heard about Robinhood being one of the newest ones that was recently involved with GameStop. So something that it's important to think about is when you are working with a broker, you want to always work with someone that's reputable, someone that's been around for a long time. I cannot say, I'm not going to speculate if Robinhood is going to continue to be here or not, but I would just strongly encourage you to work with someone who does have a long track record and has been in existence for some time. So let's talk about options trading. Now, options trading, this is not for the person who has a low risk level. This is absolute high risk, high return type of trading. Options is where you have the right to either buy or sell a stock. You're not purchasing the stock itself. You are not purchasing a share. You are simply purchasing the right to be able to sell or buy at a specific price, which is called the strike price. Now, options could get extremely complicated. I do not want to give you a lot of information that is going to be well over beyond the very basics of just how do I invest my $100. So I will say that if you want to learn more about options and about options trading, then that's something I would do a completely separate video on, because understanding how to exercise, what's the strike price, what is the spread, these are all things that would be important to know, and I don't think that this is the video to discuss the options about. But for those of you who understand options, and for those of you who are looking into getting into options, then there is definitely a lot of money to be had through options trading. It takes doing your research, making sure that you are getting into the right companies, checking the volume, making sure the volume is high whenever you are doing trading, because you do not want to get into something that has low volume and it's hard to either exercise, or it's hard to either trade your call or your put. So again, we can have another video on options. If that's something that you're interested, then let me know. We can talk about options. So I hope that all of this information was helpful to you, and I hope that you have an idea, or at least the most important takeaways. Let's review those important takeaways. Number one, what are the goals that I am trying to achieve with my $100, or whatever that amount is for you? You put in the dollar amount of what you are willing to invest. So number one, what are my goals? What would I like to do with this money that I am investing? Number two, what is my risk tolerance? Meaning, how much am I willing to lose? Am I willing to lose all of this money? Or do I not want to lose any of it? I want it to be a relatively safe investment. And understanding that if you are doing something that is low risk, your growth rate is going to be very slow, which is okay if you have a long-term investment horizon. And the third thing that you want to ask yourself is, Also, just deciding what is that investment horizon. Do you have a long time to invest? Do you only have a few years? Here is an example to consider. If you have a high school student, or let's say it's an 8th grader, you have an 8th grader right now, should you start a college fund for your 8th grader, knowing that in another 4 or 5 years they're going to be heading off to college? So think about, how much time do I have to invest? Do I have enough time to be able to grow this amount of money, however much it is that you are putting into your investing portfolio? I hope that this was all helpful to you all. On the next video, I'm going to change it up. We're going to get out of business, out of stocks, out of the stock market. We're going to just talk about kids and how do you handle kids when they are screaming all the time during the day, and we will come up with some strategies and solutions on how to handle that. As always, thank you so much for coming. I enjoyed you being here today. I hope that you're learning something. Please come back again soon. Love you. Bye.